Video games, movies. Sounds like a match made in heaven, right?
Bidoof.
Well, you'd be wrong, because they're trash, literally burning dumpster fires. And the thing is, it's been this way for years. So when the new Mortal Kombat movie came out, nobody was really expecting much, but we still held out hope for that one question. Did this adaptation manage to do what few have done before it and become a movie that is actually good? Well, to answer this question, we have to understand a few points. First off, no, it didn't. Wasn't a great movie. Most of you already know this since the movie's been out for a while now and you have eyeballs, so I have an even better question. Is this movie actually worse than the 1995 original?
What is going on here? Who is this guy?
I know most of you already think so, but I don't know if I agree with you. Let's talk about it. Hey, what's up, family? Welcome back to your favorite channel on YouTube. Today's episode is called How to Make a Completely Useless Character. Hey, I already know what you're thinking.
The 1995 movie was a masterpiece. How could you possibly compare it to this remake garbage?
And to you, I would say, drugs are bad, and you should not do them. I know it's difficult to remember now, and this might be a bit of a tough pill to swallow, but the 1995 original was also a bad movie. I know it's hard to see through the rose-colored tint of those $500 glasses.
Those are $500 sunglasses, asshole.
But if you could pry them off your face for just a minute, I think you might see that maybe, just maybe, your 12-year-old hormone-addled brain didn't know what a good movie was. Now, obviously, it's not enough for me to just say words with no context, so what I'm gonna do is break down both movies, compare them directly, explain why I think they're both bad, and then at the end, we will crown an official winner. So make sure you stick around to find out which movie is the better shitty movie. We're going to start with the 2021 version and then move into the original. But first, I need to give a huge shout out to Nessa McMillan for hitting that notification bell. You are truly Greg. Wait, no, I can't use that. You're one of the cool kids? Now I'll work on that. Regardless, I couldn't do this without you guys, so thank you very much. Make sure you also hit that notification bell and let me know in a comment for a chance to be my next video shout out. And I shouldn't have to say this, but spoiler alert for both movies. Anyway, now I know I said the movie wasn't good, but it's not all bad. The special effects looked really good, the combat was great at certain points, and even the actors were very serious. Toasty! Obviously, there are things to like about this movie, but unfortunately, it's a campy two-dimensional action film, even in its best moments, and a completely incoherent mess for pretty much the rest of them. And honestly, I don't know what I was expecting. It's a movie based on a 90s video game, whose main attraction was having a magic ninja rip your head off with your spine still attached. Because that's how physics works. The whole thing is even more disappointing for me, though, because the opening scene was actually fantastic. The ancient Japanese setting, the cinematography, the fight choreography, setting up the history between Scorpion and Sub-Zero. At this point in the movie, I'm all in. I'm ready for a win, but unfortunately, the movie wasn't, because after they lure you in with this false sense of competent filmmaking, the rest of the movie's kind of garbage. And I just don't understand, because clearly the filmmakers are capable of making high-quality content, so what happened? Characters routinely make decisions that don't make any sense. The pacing is a disaster. Dialogue is all over the place, and the movie's internal logic is ignored for like half the film. Let's just start with Cole. Why is he in the movie? I understand you want somebody the audience can relate to, but there's over 90 original characters that everybody already cares about more than this guy. Why would you take massive amounts of screen time away from all those names that people literally paid to come and see? There's no real reason to care about Cole outside of the fact that he just happens to be the main character, and on top of that, his story doesn't make sense to begin with. The fact that somebody can be born with the mark is stupid. I get they're going for this whole destiny/prophecy thing, but when does that ever make sense in any movie? What if he didn't grow up to be a fighter? What if he chose to be literally anything else instead?
Are you Cole, the champion who's destined to protect Earthrealm?
I'm Cole the accountant.
There's no time. You've been chosen to protect Earthrealm from the evil warlord Shao Kahn and his invasion by fighting in a brutal tournament known as Mortal Kombat. Your first challenger approaches, the demon Scorpion.
I'm sorry, what? Oh, wow. Yeah, that's a real demon. I'm an accountant.
Now is not the time for doubt. Any hesitation, and he will carve out your entrails.
Hey, babe, yeah, I'm probably gonna die in like 5 minutes, so if you could delete my internet history, that would be really cool. Also, you're probably gonna be a warlord slave. Anyway, gotta go. Bye!
Get over here!
It's the problem I have with any movie that uses destiny or prophecy as its main driving motivation. It's lazy writing, and it completely removes any stakes the movie might have had. Not to mention that it makes even less sense when you understand that actual gods exist in this world who don't give a shit about anything. No, I mean that literally. They don't give a shit, and the rules of Mortal Kombat in this movie are meaningless. Let's talk about Sub-Zero, for example. He's hunting down and killing the champions before the tournament can even happen, despite the fact that Raiden explicitly says this:
"It is forbidden to claim victory until the tournament begins."
The only time the movie ever addresses this is when Shang Tsung says that conflict is allowed to happen outside the tournament, but what does that even mean? If you can't claim victory before the tournament, and you can't invade another realm until you claim victory, then how does killing any of the fighters before the tournament benefit him? It doesn't. It's completely pointless. And I'm pretty sure the writers were aware of this because they gave Shang Tsung the dumbest line in the movie to try to get around it when he says that the Elder Gods are too lazy to enforce their own rules. What are you talking about? Okay, so then why are you doing the tournament at all? Just invade. If they don't care, then why does it matter? Why are we pretending that anything matters at this point? Also, I just think it's funny that Sub-Zero never checks to make sure his victims are dead. Like, he blows up Jax's arms here, which cauterizes the wounds, and then he just leaves. For no reason. Aren't you gonna kill him?
No, he will suffer and die slowly.
Why? What? Why though? You could just stab him with one of your ice knife things.
Yeah, but...
Or freeze his head until it explodes like you just did to his arm.
Okay, yeah, but you're not...
Or literally, just stomp the life out of him right now. He has no arms, man.
Okay, stop. Look, he's one of the main characters, okay? He needs a backstory.
Oh. Well, that makes sense. And since we're on the topic of characters being bad at their jobs, let's talk about everyone. Everybody in this movie is stupid. Especially these two. Raiden is an inconsistent asshole the entire time, and his only excuse is that he isn't allowed to interfere, which is bullshit. Because it's the only thing he does in the movie. He gives Cole access to Scorpion, he regularly teleports people around, including the bad guys. He saves them multiple times, and let's not forget that he's literally training them. I don't know about you guys, but that sounds like direct interference. And if he's able to do all that, why didn't he just teleport the champions to the temple before Sub-Zero killed them all? And it gets worse, because about 3/4 of the way through the film, you find out that he's capable of teleporting everyone to some random white void where it's impossible for the bad guys to go.
Impossible for the bad guys to go.
What the f***? You could have used that the whole time. Literally nobody had to die, man. And let's talk about Liu Kang. What was he doing the whole time? After Kano takes everybody to the location of the temple, which is a place he knows about for some reason, Liu Kang pops up out of nowhere, tells everybody that it's his job to find the champions, and then takes credit for finding them. You didn't do anything, bud. There's no one else at the temple aside from Raiden and Kung Lao, and the tournament's only a month away. You've done nothing. But even with all of that, the biggest sin to me is Arcana. Do you really think that anyone is going to question why characters have powers in a world that has interdimensional realms, four-armed monsters, and actual gods? It's only included so that the characters could have a generic obstacle to climb over and pad the runtime with a half-assed montage in the middle, which, by the way, is the weakest part of the whole movie. And even if it was a good idea, it has no consistency at all. If you're wondering what it does exactly, the answer is anything the writers want. It makes Liu Kang a firebender, Cole gets actual plot armor, Kano becomes half the man the Cyclops is, and Jax gets a technology upgrade? What is happening? And what exactly does Kung Lao get? Just a hat? A hat with a razor blade on it? Pretty cool, man. But that's pretty much it. There's a couple more positive things like the inclusion of fatalities, which I thought was really cool to see. Josh Lawson's Kano, who severed his spine carrying the whole movie. And I really enjoyed the last battle between Sub-Zero and Scorpion, but it's just not enough for me. The movie has a few redeeming qualities, but overall, it's a complete mess. So, having said all those negative things, the 1995 movie must be better. Right? Right? Well, not really. I won't break this one down as much because it's 26 years old, but I do want to talk about a few things, and then we can compare them and see where we end up. First off, let's talk about the tournament, or at least what this movie pretends is a tournament, because it seems to be the biggest reason that people praise the old movie over the new one, saying it actually had a real tournament, and this is technically true, if you ignore everything about how a tournament works. Like brackets, or rankings, or matchups, or just rules in general. But we'll start with recruiting. Who chooses the fighters? And why? Raiden implies that he chose them, but every single character was intentionally baited to the island by Shang Tsung. He killed Liu Kang's brother, he pretends to be Johnny Cage's master, and he hires Kano as bait for Sonya because she wants revenge on him for killing one of her partners. This tournament doesn't happen without Shang Tsung. But all of that aside, how does this tournament even work? There's no logic to when fights take place, who they're with, what the rules are, and I have no idea what's going on ever. The first fight is with Liu Kang and some random guy, and they both have bamboo sticks for some reason. And then the next fight takes place on the same day at the same location between Sonya and Kano, and he brings in a knife?
He's got a knife.
That's not a knife.
It is a knife, and why is he allowed to do that? Do the fighters get to choose their own weapons? Can anybody just bring whatever they want? And if so, then why did Liu Kang and the random guy have the exact same weapon? Who gave those to them? Did they like secretly agree to bring matching weapons the day before the fight? Who makes the decisions? Sonya, of course, snaps Kano's neck with her thighs of steel, and then we immediately cut to the most symmetrical forest ever to watch Johnny Cage fight Scorpion with no explanation for how we got there, and I have so many questions. Where's Shang Tsung? Isn't he supposed to preside over the fights? Why are there no spectators at all? Who decided how this fight would happen? If they didn't kill each other, how would anybody know who won? Why is Scorpion's kunai a snake that comes out of his hand vagina? And why the fuck are they allowed to fight in hell? Every other fight was on the beach, and speaking of, the very next fight is on the beach with Shang Tsung watching again so we can pretend rules still matter, but this fight is even more confusing somehow. Kitana gives Liu Kang a bunch of vague clues for how to beat Sub-Zero, gets yelled at by Shang Tsung, and then the scene just ends. What? Was this not a real tournament fight? Did this one not matter for some reason? I don't understand, and apparently the writers don't either, because the next fight is with Liu Kang versus Sub-Zero, and again, Shang Tsung is nowhere to be found. By the way, if you're keeping count, that's 3 fights for Liu Kang and only 1 for both Sonya and Johnny Cage, so I don't know how the brackets work in this movie, but it's clearly doing just whatever the hell it wants at this point. Anyway, Liu Kang beats Sub-Zero with a bucket of water. Sorry, I said a bucket of water. Because that's how physics works. After that, there's only 3 more fights. You have Johnny versus Goro, where he punches him in what I can only assume are coconut-sized testicles before fairy kicking him off the worst-looking digital cliff ever. The fight with Liu Kang and Reptile, which is actually a pretty good fight. And then, of course, there's the final battle between Liu Kang and Shang Tsung, even though he was supposed to fight Sonya as part of some agreement he made with Johnny according to the rules of Mortal Kombat, and we all know how rules work in this movie.
The rules are quite clear.
But they're not. They're not, though. The internal logic of this movie is just as bad as the new movie in every conceivable way, so who wins? Well, let's rate them by category. First, let's start with the storyline. In terms of story and internal consistency, both movies are literally insane. They contradict themselves, there's massive plot holes, and neither movie has any interest in following its own rules. The old movie gives you a storyline that is a bit more straightforward and easier to follow, so as a standalone film, it's a little bit more satisfying to watch. Whereas the new movie sacrifices some of this satisfaction to try and build a universe for its characters and themes to exist in. This actually gives them a lot more room to explore specific character backstories and themes as the franchise develops, which is not something the old movie was really able to do. We'll talk about that more later when we get to characters, but while the old film is a little bit more fun to watch by itself, I am way more heavily invested in what has happened and what is going to happen in the new franchise. So despite its numerous flaws, I do have to give this category to the Mortal Kombat 2021, which is 1 point for Cole. But I do want to talk about pacing as a separate category, because if you remember, I did say that the old movie is more satisfying to watch, but why is that? See, the old movie was silly and cheesy more often than it wasn't, but the pacing actually felt natural, which is not something the new movie has any claim to. The entire middle section of the movie was a complete disaster, and even though it extended the runtime by a lot, it was so rushed that it made the movie feel shorter. You never really feel like you have time to adjust and settle in before the movie is awkwardly forcing you on to the next thing. And again, we all know they're setting things up to continue the franchise, but this makes the movie's flow feel really jagged. So this is an easy victory for the original movie, which gives us a tie. But in the immortal words of Chris Lambert himself,
there can be only one.
So let's look at the next 3 categories, which is combat choreography, special effects, and characters. The old movie had a couple of decent fights, namely the one with Scorpion and Reptile, but most of the time the choreography felt really basic and the editing is really dumb. Look at Liu Kang right here. What is he doing? There's no one there. He's just flipping over stuff to hit his quota. And don't get me wrong, there's a few weird looking things in the new movie as well, but the opening fight choreography alone is better than every single fight in the old movie combined. In fact, the combat is the best part of this movie. It's extremely well done, especially the fights between Scorpion and Sub-Zero, not to mention that we actually get fatalities and the proper use of the term flawless victory. So this is a category that easily goes to MK 2021, but I will give half a point to the original for at least keeping its fights interesting enough to watch in spite of the shitty editing, which is an accomplishment in and of itself. So let's move on to special effects. Now, you might think this is an easy win for the new movie because it does have 26 years of technological advancements over its predecessor. And you would be right, but it wouldn't be fair to compare them on a one-to-one basis for this exact reason. So I'm going to rate them based on the time frame they came out. Obviously, the old movie is going to look worse when you have that much of a gap between them, but does the original film look bad compared to the technology of 1995? And it depends on what you're looking at. There are a few effects that look pretty decent, like Raiden's lightning, Shang Tsung's morphing, and Sub-Zero's ice shield thing, but unfortunately most of the special effects outside of this look really terrible, especially 3D rendering. Reptile looks like a PS1 game, and I have no idea what's going on with Scorpion's hand vagina snake, which is somehow not a euphemism. You have to remember that movies like Casper the Friendly Ghost and Jumanji came out in 1995 as well, and both of them had 3D characters that looked 100 times better than anything Mortal Kombat was even remotely capable of. The main exception to this is Goro. I think it was a great decision to make him an animatronic puppet because it actually puts a physical object in the scene that the actors can work off of. It also allows his presence to really come through on screen, so this is a great job by the original team. Now, the new movie obviously has a ton of fully animated special effects, and the same question applies. Do they look good by today's standards? And the answer is yes. They actually look great, ironically, with the exception of Goro, who looks like shit, but everything else is really well put together. The ice effects look amazing all the way through the movie. Liu Kang's fire powers look awesome, and all of the fatalities really do look extremely brutal with a lot of attention to detail. There's obviously a few scenes that look a little weird, but this has nothing to do with the special effects and instead is related to poor editing choices, and that's something both movies suffer from, so I can't really knock it by comparison. The new movie just puts out a higher level of quality more consistently for its time. Whereas while the old film had a few bright spots, it was pretty janky for the most part. So this point also goes to the 2021 version. However, I will give another half point to the original team simply for Goro's animatronics alone, which is something that does deserve recognition. And that brings us to the final and most important category, in my opinion, which is characters. It's going to be worth 2 points instead of 1, and right now the score is only 3-2, so it's really still anybody's game. Let's get into it. First off, let's mention which characters are actually in the movies. I'm going to read this because I can't remember them all in one sitting, but both films have Liu Kang, Sonya Blade, Raiden, Shang Tsung, Scorpion, Sub-Zero, Kano, Reptile, Jax, kind of, and Goro. The 1995 version additionally has Kitana and Johnny Cage, while the 2021 version has Nitara, Reiko, Melina, and Cabal. I'm going to start with character design just to get it out of the way, but look. Obviously, the new movie looks better. Okay, if you saw this and your first thought was that this cheap Halloween costume looking ass was a better option, then you're a liar. All right, you're just lying at that point. Or you're delusional. Either way, I can't really help you. But design is only half the battle, so how were the characters actually handled? In the original film, Liu Kang was the main character, so obviously he had the most backstory, but we also got to see the motivations of Sonya Blade, Johnny Cage, Kano to a small degree, and obviously Raiden and Shang Tsung. But outside of those characters, everybody else is completely two-dimensional and generic in every single way. I understand Cole was a boring character, but at least he had a reason for being there. In the original movie, Scorpion, Sub-Zero, Reptile, and Goro were only there to serve as obstacles for the main characters. There wasn't even an attempt to give them a reason outside of just vaguely being controlled by Shang Tsung. I'm not saying the new movie didn't do this to some extent with Nitara and Cabal. In fact, Reptile was used in the exact same way. But the plot was designed heavily around the motivations and aspirations of its characters, with a huge focus on Scorpion and Sub-Zero, which is something I really enjoyed about the new movie. If they weren't trying to squeeze so many things in like some backwoods clown car, this actually could have been a good film. And can we stop pretending that Chris Lambert was a good choice for Raiden? He wasn't. He was awful.
The fate of billions will depend upon you. Sorry.
The guy looked like he was waiting for a chance to take your kids the whole movie. Toasty. So, if you can do basic math, you might have realized by now that the 2021 version does have a higher score than the movie from 1995, and This wasn't an accident. Bar for bar, I do think that the new movie does a slightly better job, but don't freak out yet. The original is a classic that we all love already. And like I already said, because of the pacing, it is more satisfying to watch it as a standalone film. But we all know that this is one of those movies that falls in the so bad it's good category, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's the first watchable video game movie adaptation, and it deserves recognition for being just that. But the people saying that it's not only worse than the original, but somehow worse than Annihilation are out of their minds. It's not a great movie, I'll give you that. But it's also not terrible by any stretch of the imagination, and there is a ton of potential for the franchise moving forward, so all we can do is wait and see. But in the meantime, make sure you subscribe and hit that notification bell so you can see more of my videos in the future. Make sure you comment down below, tell me what you think, tell me if you disagree. I do not mind at all. In fact, I love interacting with as many of you as physically possible, and as always, thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you, yes you, in the motherfucking next one.
Peace.